Thị trường logistics toàn cầu được dự báo có mức tăng trưởng trung bình là 6,54% một năm trong giai đoạn năm 2017-2020 và đạt 15,5 ngàn tỷ đô la Mỹ vào năm 2024. Theo ước tính, hiện có hơn 4 ngàn tỷ đô la Mỹ hàng hóa được vận chuyển trên toàn thế giới mỗi năm. Cho nên chi phí quản lý, theo dõi hàng hóa vận chuyển chiếm một khoản không nhỏ trên tổng giá trị hàng hóa trên. Công nghệ blockchain được xem là biểu tượng của cuộc cách mạng công nghiệp 4.0. Các nước trên thế giới đang tìm cách ứng dụng công nghệ này với hy vọng làm thay đổi toàn bộ việc vận chuyển hàng hóa toàn cầu, giảm bớt gánh nặng về chi phí, tăng tối đa lợi nhuận cho dịch vụ logistics.
Hello and welcome to Smart Money on Fbnc. Now, traditionally, supply chains have relied heavily on physical movement of large volumes of paper documents, so leaving the windows open for fraud, human error, and inadvertent delays. And nowadays, a growing number of companies believe that blockchain technology could help solve the issues and could help speed up trades. So in order to have a further understanding on the benefit and the challenges of blockchain application in trades, we are now going to have a discussion with Professor Jason Potts, who is the director of the Blockchain Innovation Hub from RMIT University, and he is also from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome, Professor Potts, to the program today. How are you today?
Fantastic. Really glad to be here.
Well, and thank you for joining in our program today. Now, first of all, could you tell us how is the blockchain application is applied in trades? How does it work?
Yeah, so blockchain is a new infrastructural technology that is going to revolutionize how supply chains work, because what a supply chain is not just moving goods and services from point to point and along a track. Yeah. It's also moving the information with it. This information relates to provenance, bills of lading, trade finance, and what blockchain enables you to do is to put all of that information on a blockchain and dramatically lower the cost of moving the information and therefore the cost of trade. So we see this as a radical new infrastructure to lower the cost of global trade.
And but what is the main difference between trades without blockchain technology? I mean, traditionally, like you say, it could speed up trades, and because the flow of the information is going to be faster. How does it really work? Because we want to know in details.
Yeah. So I mean, when we move a good or service from, say, Vietnam to Australia, the good, every time it moves, every time it comes on and off a ship or on and off a truck or into a warehouse, information, often in the form of paper, has to be cited and signed and cleared and so on. That information relates to where it came from, its permission to be here, its biosecurity and so on. You know, if there's 30 different steps between that thing, there'll be at least 300 bits of paper that have to be signed and verified. That's the cost of trade, and it's moving that sort of stuff to blockchain that will significantly digitize and speed up the way that supply chains work.
Well, so first of all, it would speed up the procedure and the time of the flow of the information. Secondly, it would reduce cost hugely. And besides that, what are the other benefits that blockchain technology could bring to trades?
So reducing cost and increasing speed are two significant things. Yes. But what it also does, because you've done that, is it means you can actually put more information onto supply chains. This is information about the provenance of a good. We can actually have we can have photographs of the person that made it along the way. We can add a lot more information, which is valuable. Yeah. That increases the value of the product as it goes through. We also get more security. Because this information using blockchain technology is a lot harder to tamper with and to forge and to fake, we can trust in that information more, which means there's more information, we trust it more, there's greater security in it, and we get the benefits of speed and price.
But that is in regards of information, but could it help in limiting the trade of counterfeits, the fake goods, and also the stop illegal smugglings? Yeah. Can it do that?
Look, I mean, it's highly likely that it will, and the reason it will is just it raises the cost of doing that, because it's much easier to verify whether something, if you can more easily verify the origin and provenance of something and verify each different step along the way, it becomes much harder to tamper with that and to sort of insert things into it. So a lot of the estimates put it between sort of blockchain technology makes it more secure, which means it's more costly to do that or easier to verify and catch. So I expect this will be very, very good for driving a lot of counterfeit goods out of supply chains.
Because right now, how companies is applying it? Is there in many other countries? Because I know that blockchain technology has been applied into many industries, especially in bankings. But how about trading systems?
Yeah, so we're at the very early days of this. So with cryptocurrencies and banking, we've seen money on blockchains for 10 years now. It's only really in the past 2 or 3 years that we've started to see experiments to move supply chains onto blockchains. There was a big announcement was made earlier this year in January by IBM, Maersk and Walmart to form a consortium to try and move a lot of their supply chains on that space. This year, 2018, we've seen a lot of startups, a lot of proof of concept, a lot of experiments. So I think we're still at early days in the development of this, but we're starting to see it across agricultural supply chains, the movement of fish and perishable goods. So what we're observing now is through 2018, we've started to see experiments, proof of concepts done by big companies like IBM and Maersk and Walmart. We've started to see small companies experiment with developing and proving that the technology works along agricultural supply chains, horticultural goods and services, fish and other perishable goods. And so we're seeing that this technology can work. What we haven't sort of seen yet is the full end-to-end consumer application yet, but I think that'll be coming soon.
Okay, thank you very much, and we'll be talking more about the challenges of blockchain application, and especially in logistics. Thank you very much. We have been talking with Professor Jason Potts from RMIT University about the blockchain technology in trading system, and we'll be talking more about the challenges of this application in logistics in the next part. Please stay with us.
Khi nền kinh tế của Việt Nam đang ngày càng hội nhập sâu rộng, kéo theo hoạt động xuất nhập khẩu nhộn nhịp hơn so với những năm trước đây. Tuy nhiên, các doanh nghiệp Việt Nam đang phải gánh chịu một khoản chi phí rất lớn cho logistics. Ngân hàng Thế giới cho biết, chi phí dành cho logistics của Việt Nam tương đương với 21% GDP của cả nước. Gần đây, chính phủ cũng đã ban hành chỉ thị về việc tăng cường năng lực tiếp cận của cách mạng công nghiệp lần thứ tư. Việc ứng dụng công nghệ blockchain trong lĩnh vực logistics đang được xem là một giải pháp giúp tiết giảm tối đa chi phí cho doanh nghiệp. Hiện nay, hầu hết thủ tục trong hoạt động này vẫn được làm thủ công.
Welcome back to Smart Money on Fbnc. We've been discussing with Professor Jason Potts, Director of Blockchain Innovation Hub from RMIT University, about the application of blockchains in the trade systems. Now, welcome back, Professor Potts. You've mentioned about blockchain technology applied in agriculture, in logistics, and it sounds very interesting. You just tell us one example to highlight how the technology works.
Yeah, we're seeing some really interesting and useful applications that are being tried. One of my favorites is one that's done by Consensus, which is one of the Ethereum Foundation companies, in combination with the World Wildlife Foundation, the WWF. And what they're concerned with is sustainable tuna fishing in the South Pacific. So what they've done is they've figured out a way to create a technology to put sustainably harvest tuna on a blockchain. So what happens is tuna is caught, it's essentially tagged with a dynamic QR code. That QR code writes its location, its position, the fishing boat that caught it, the person that caught it, to a blockchain. And then every time that fish, as it moves all its way through to the markets in America or in Japan or here in Vietnam, is updated, tracked in real time, so that anyone at any point along the supply chain can verify the origin, the movement of that fish all the way through. So full, complete provenance. And this is a way, the WWF is very excited about this, as a way to verify and recognize sustainable fish harvesting. It provides more value in this supply chain. And I think this is the sort of thing we're going to see more of.
Yes, and actually in Vietnam we're going to, we have been applying that, but just a little part of it in our food safety policy and food safety procedure. Now, talking more about the challenges of a blockchain application, because IT infrastructure is, for Vietnam especially, and for us in general, is still not as strong as we wanted. So the cyber attacks matter here.
Yeah, look, so blockchain technology runs on the internet, so you need internet to work. But the surprising thing is that blockchain technology is built in such a way that it can actually work on fairly, it doesn't require fully secure internet systems to work. Technically it works on something called, it has Byzantine fault tolerance, which means that even if a few nodes are broken, this technology can still work. So this is an amazing property of it. Blockchain technology actually works on noisy networks.
On noisy networks. And then for statistics shows that the up-running time could be like 99.99%. So there's no interruption even with the current infrastructure.
Yeah. So this is a property. It's a distributed network, and one of the things about distributed networks, like the internet, is that they're very, very hard to break, because if one part of it goes down, it just reroutes around other parts of it. So in the same way that the internet is more or less impossible to switch off or take down, the same thing is true of blockchain. So it's highly reliable in that distributed sense.
Okay. And one of the other concerns is that because blockchain technology is now interrupting many industries and also in trades as well, and it could reduce the human resource. I mean, the people could lose jobs in such industry. So do you think it is something that we should consider at this moment?
Look, I think it's real in the sense that this disruption will disrupt, and it will disrupt not just jobs but companies and firms, possibly whole industries. That's completely normal. That's what happens when new technologies come along. And what happens is that blockchain technology will create value. It'll increase the amount of trade, it lowers costs. That increase in value creates more jobs. So we'll see some destruction of some parts of existing jobs, but we'll see creation of new types of jobs as this goes on. So this creative destruction process, I think we can expect to happen as this goes on. But this is a normal part of how economies grow.
And you say that these are just the normal early days of the days that we apply blockchain technology, especially in trades, and there's been a couple of startups that have started this already. But any other challenges that we are facing right now?
Yeah, so I think we're still at the experimental phase of this. So we're a few years in. I think it's more than a couple. There's many thousands of startups in this space. I don't think there's a single major corporation on this planet that isn't thinking about what do we do about blockchain, or how do we adapt and develop with respect to this. And this is true of governments as well. We see the main challenge here is at the moment it's just learning about it. So this is consumers, this is business people, regulators and so on, just need to make themselves familiar with this technology, if for no other reason than to really sort of get rid of a lot of just mistaken ideas about how it works and what it can do. And the best way to do that is just to experiment with it. So this is why I quite like the idea of people playing in cryptocurrency markets and just as a way to learn about this technology. The next part of it is that we need regulators, governments, firms to come together and realize that what we're building here is new economic infrastructure. New economic infrastructure requires coordination. It's not built by one individual firm or one individual government. It's built by groups of stakeholders coming together and deciding this is the type of infrastructure we want to build. So that kind of high-level coordination is that's the challenge that we're up to right now. And I think countries or regions that can do that well will succeed.
But speaking of that, so far have you heard about any objections at all from anyone, anybody's?
Yeah, no, obviously this is an experimental technology. We're learning about it. There's mistakes that will be made. There are some sort of scams are being run. As with any new technology, it's entirely normal that we'd see that. The main thing I'm worried about essentially is pushback by existing firms or existing business models that are threatened by this. I think that kind of blocking of it is the main barrier to adoption of this technology. And we see this, for instance, in the banking sector, where the banking sector wants very strong know your customer and anti-money laundering rules, precisely because it locks in its own business model. So we're seeing a lot of fights between new cryptocurrency or blockchain companies that are trying to sort of do something better, faster, cheaper than the existing companies, and the existing companies are fighting back on that.
Because it must be a cooperation between the many organizations in the value chains, so it cannot be applied on only one single entity, right? So organization across the value chains must apply it at the same time. Is that?
Yeah, no, this is correct. This is fundamentally correct. This is a network technology as economic infrastructure. So if just one firm adopts this and no one else does, there's very little benefit there, right? So it's like having one telephone, right? You need at least one other person to have a mobile phone so you can call them. And it's the same thing with blockchain technologies. It's a network technology. So there's a lot of advantage. This is, again, where we're up to right now, is this infrastructure build out to try and develop this. So this is why we need sort of cooperation and experimentation between firms in different industries, between governments at different levels, and across regions, why there's opportunities for countries to learn from the experience of other countries. Vietnam can learn from Australia, Australia can learn from Vietnam in this space. And I think what we really need here is a lot of cooperation and sharing of information as we build this, because what we're trying to do is to build joint infrastructure.
Okay. And you've been to, you have attended many conferences already, and you speak to a lot of people. How does people respond on this issue? I mean, on this blockchain technology thing.
So blockchain technology, what's interesting about it is it's happening everywhere. Everywhere the internet is, blockchain technology is happening. It's happening in every country. It's happening in every industry. Because there's data and in every industry. So what we're seeing is a lot of attempts to try and experiment and share information about lessons learned and experiments run and proof of concepts done. I'm seeing a lot of cooperation. I'm seeing a huge amount of cooperation, a huge amount of interest in what this technology can do. By and large, most people are seeing it the same way, that this is new economic infrastructure. This is going to be fantastic for trade and commerce and in a global context. And this is building, whether this is Industry 4.0 or Web 3 or Globalization 2.0, this is the sort of next generation of how economies work.
Okay, we'll be back. We'll just take a little short break here and we will talk. We'll be discussing more about how Vietnam is putting a lot of efforts into making the economy developed in the future. Thank you very much. We will be back with more on the application of blockchain in Vietnam's economy and in its trading system with Professor Jason Potts. You have been watching Smart Money on Fbnc about the application of blockchains on Vietnam's trading system. Professor Jason Potts, thank you very much and welcome back to the program. Now, is this the first time that you're here in Vietnam?
Yes, this is the first time here.
Okay, great. But what is your understanding about the Vietnamese economy, and do you think that how it's going to develop in the future?
Yeah, look, I've been watching Vietnam develop and grow for quite a number of years, and I don't need to tell you this, but things are very exciting for Vietnam right now. It's one of the fastest growing regions and parts of the world, and it's doing it for good reasons. It's industrializing, good infrastructure, rising education levels in the population. It's all of the things that point to permanent long-run growth. So I think this is a very exciting place to be.
Yeah, and I know that you're here and you will be attending a lot of conferences about blockchain technology, and Vietnam has entered into many free trade agreements already. And how do you think that blockchain technology could kind of help develop the logistics industry in Vietnam? Yeah,
look, I see this as an enormous opportunity for Vietnam. The way Vietnam is developing is it's basically building itself into the global trading economy into very complex global supply chains, and finding specializations and opportunities to create value in that. Blockchain is the new level of infrastructure for it to do that. So I see this as a chance for Vietnam to really leapfrog ahead to create sort of the next generation of infrastructure for global trade and to exploit that for its own benefit. It's a great opportunity.
Okay, good to hear that. But again, specifically, what could be the hurdles that you think that Vietnam is now facing and in kind of adopting this technology?
Yeah. Look, I think that the hurdles that Vietnam faces are the same hurdles everyone faces in the world. And most of these are really about just experimentation, trying to figure out how to use this technology in its best possible way. And the way to do this is just to try things. So what I would like to see is government support of experiments, proof of concepts, trials, pilots being done by firms, that information being shared around with other firms. So sort of a collaboration between government and firms to try and experiment and learn how to use this technology, and ideally to do it before other countries figure it out as well, because that then provides an opportunity for leadership in the space.
So that the role of government here is very important, you think, and how about the business community? What they should do? Maybe they should encourage more startups in this kind of.
Well, I mean, the business community will be doing that anyway. I think the role of government here is actually to play the role of funding research, but this sort of research needs to be experimental. Right? So this is, in essence, governments partnering with firms to do joint research around how to use this technology, and then sharing that information around other firms in Vietnam. Right? That's a good role for government in this space, and large firms could also be doing that, but I think there's a sort of, I'd like to see this across multiple industries, across sort of agriculture and food exports and manufacturing, across the sort of heavy manufacturing and light manufacturing, across the health sector and pharmaceuticals and other sort of things. So, and also in the creative industry. So there's lots of different industries that each will possibly have different types of solutions and opportunities. And we need to see experimentation across all of these. This could be quite cheap to do and fast. So there's no reason not to start work on this immediately.
Okay. How about at RMIT? What have you?
Yeah. So so we give the same advice to our government and our industries as well, is the importance of experimentation, and that's what the students like to do. So we're seeing, we run a research institute on blockchain technology, and there's an enormous interest coming from research students and PhD students and masters coming in wanting to do work in lots of different sectors to understand this. And so we're seeing a lot of new technologies being developed. We're seeing a lot of new business models being experimented with. We're seeing an enormous amount of entrepreneurial and scientific energy applied in this space. And I think that's where the growth will come from. And the role of government in this story is really just to facilitate that.
But in terms of human resources and talents that needed into applying this technology, do you think Vietnam is having a big issue here?
Look, I'm not sure, but I think every country is having this issue. So this is a very new, this technology literally did not exist 10 years ago. So everyone, everywhere is having to rapidly learn and catch up about this. So there's still very few courses that you can do in this space. We're trying to offer them at RMIT in Melbourne. So most people who have learnt about the space have been self-taught. So, this is why you just need to experiment. You just need to start learning about it, trying things out, and that's how we go. And in the meantime, the universities like RMIT are trying to sort of develop the credentials and courses to help with this.
Yeah, it is true, and it is a reality that now people just go to the internet and study from there. So you're saying that for those that want to study more about blockchain technology, and especially how it applied in trades and in other industry, they can go to RMIT because there are courses there about blockchain.
Yeah, so at RMIT we offer undergrad courses, we offer postgrad courses, and we offer courses online through RMIT Online. We're not the only one. There's other universities around the world also offer these things. But I think this is where we're up to now, is that the need to actually professionalize and credentialize and sort of create to lift the level of skills in this space is what is needed to drive this technology forward.
Well, Professor Jason Park, thank you very much for coming here today, and you have shared with us a lot of useful information. And we would like to take this opportunity to wish you a lot of success and health in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Professor.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
So that has been our Smart Money on FBNC today, and we hope that you have learned a lot of useful information, and you can always watch this episode of Smart Money again on our YouTube. And goodbye here, and see you in the next episode of Smart Money.